Nathan Carter had seen many strange things in his years as a space trader. He had traveled to distant worlds, bargained with aliens of all shapes and sizes, and even survived a close encounter with space pirates. But nothing prepared him for what happened the moment he stepped off his ship on Velith 4. The planet was supposed to be just another stop, a quick refueling, a supply exchange, and then back to his journey. The air was cold, and a thick layer of mist covered the rocky ground. It was quiet, too quiet. Nathan frowned. Something felt off. Then, out of nowhere, she appeared. A figure rushed toward him from the fog. She was Velithari, a species known for their shimmering silver skin and glowing blue eyes. Her long, flowing robe was torn, and she looked desperate. "Human, please, come inside," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Nathan instinctively stepped back, hand hovering near his sidearm. He had been in dangerous situations before, and a sudden request like this usually meant trouble. "Who are you? What's going on?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "No time. Please, you are the only one who can help us." The alien girl grabbed his wrist, her fingers cold but firm. Nathan hesitated. His ship was right there. He could turn around, lock the doors, and leave. But something in her eyes stopped him. Fear, desperation, a silent plea for hope. With a sigh, he nodded. "All right, lead the way." She didn't waste a second. Pulling him forward, she led him toward a jagged rock formation. To Nathan's surprise, she pressed her hand against the stone, and a hidden door slid open with a faint hum. "Inside, quickly," she urged. Nathan stepped through the entrance just as the door sealed behind them. Inside, the temperature was warmer, and the air smelled of metal and damp stone. Dim blue lights flickered along the tunnel walls, revealing the hidden underground complex. As Nathan followed the alien girl deeper inside, he heard whispers, dozens of voices. Soon, they entered a large underground chamber, and Nathan's eyes widened. Velithari, hundreds of them. They were huddled together, thin and weak-looking. Many wore ragged clothes, and some had visible signs of malnutrition. A few children peeked at him from behind their parents, their glowing blue eyes filled with curiosity and fear. Nathan turned to the girl. "All right, you dragged me here. Now tell me what's going on." She took a deep breath. "My name is Adlera, and we need your help, human. If you don't help us, we won't survive." Nathan crossed his arms. "Survive what?" Adlera's expression darkened. "The Union abandoned us." Nathan frowned. The Galactic Union. That was impossible. The Velithari were an advanced race, members of the Union for centuries. Why would they be abandoned? "Our energy core. It failed," Adlera explained. "Without it, our food processors don't work. Our defenses are down. The Union said we were not worth the resources and left us here to die." Nathan's jaw clenched. He had heard of the Union making cold, calculated decisions, but leaving an entire colony to perish. That was cruel, even for them. "We tried to fix the core," Adlera continued, "but it's too complex. We don't understand how it works. Our engineers are gone, and the few of us left don't have the knowledge." Nathan sighed. Why was it always humans who had to clean up someone else's mess? "Let me guess," he said, rubbing his temples. "You think a human can fix it?" Adlera nodded. "Yes, the Union calls your species resourceful, that you find solutions others cannot. If anyone can help us, it's you." Nathan exhaled slowly. Great. Just another normal day in space, getting dragged into someone else's problems. But then he looked around. The hollow eyes of the Velithari, the silent hunger in the children's faces. They weren't warriors. They weren't criminals. They were just people, abandoned, left to die, because they weren't useful anymore. He couldn't just walk away. "All right," he said, adjusting his jacket. "Show me this energy core." Adlera's face lit up with hope. "Follow me, human." Time is running out. Nathan followed Alyra through the underground tunnels, his boots echoing against the stone floor. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. Faint blue lights flickered along the walls, barely keeping the path visible. The air smelled of damp metal, dust, and something else: desperation. Nathan had been in plenty of bad situations before, but this, an entire colony left to die, it made his stomach twist. After a few minutes of walking, they reached a massive chamber. Nathan stopped in his tracks. The underground space stretched far and wide, its walls carved with strange glowing symbols. But it wasn't the architecture that caught his attention, it was the people. Hundreds of Velithari filled the space, gathered in small groups. Some lay on thin mats, too weak to move. Others sat silently, staring at the ground. Parents held their silent, hollow-eyed children close, trying to comfort them. Nathan's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a struggling colony. This was a graveyard in waiting. Alyra stepped forward, raising her hands. "Do not be afraid. This human has come to help us." A few Velithari looked up, their glowing blue eyes filled with uncertainty. Some whispered among themselves. Others simply turned away, as if hope was too painful to hold on to. Nathan sighed. No pressure. Alyra led him to a side chamber, where a few Velithari gathered around old data terminals. The screens flickered weakly, barely functional. One of the elders, a thin Velithari with deep scars along his arms, turned to face them. "You brought a human?" he asked, frowning. "Yes," Alyra said firmly. "He can help." The elder studied Nathan, his gaze sharp. "Humans are known for many things, but why would one help us?" Nathan smirked. "Because I don't like seeing innocent people left to rot." "Now, are you going to show me this energy core, or keep doubting me?" The elder narrowed his eyes, but eventually nodded. He motioned for another Velithari to bring up a holographic display. A blueprint of the energy core flickered to life. Nathan stepped closer, analyzing the design. It was ancient, far older than he expected. The core wasn't just technology. It was a mix of engineering and something almost organic. "This powered your entire colony?" he asked. Alyra nodded. "It supplied everything: food processors, climate control, defenses. But it failed 6 months ago. We tried to repair it, but it's not just broken," Nathan murmured, his eyes narrowing. "It was sabotage." The room fell silent. "That's impossible," the elder said. "Why would someone do that?" Nathan pointed at a section of the blueprint. "See these redundancies? Your people built this with backup systems. Even if one part failed, the others should have kept running. But this was shut down deliberately." Alyra's expression darkened. "The Union." Nathan glanced at her. "You're saying the Galactic Union did this? Or someone working for them?" Alyra said. "They said we were no longer sustainable, that we should accept our fate." Nathan clenched his fists. He had heard rumors before, stories of the Union abandoning colonies that were too costly to support. But seeing it firsthand, it made his blood boil. "All right," he said. "Take me to the core. If there's a way to fix it, I'll find it." The elder hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me, human." Nathan was led through a dark tunnel, the walls humming faintly with leftover energy. The deeper they went, the more unstable the structure became. Cracks lined the walls, and the lights flickered erratically. At the end of the passage, a large circular door stood, covered in ancient markings. The elder placed his hand on a nearby panel, and with a deep rumbling sound, the door slid open. Nathan stepped inside and stared in awe. The energy core was massive, a towering structure of black metal and pulsing blue veins stretching upward like a frozen waterfall. But something was wrong. It wasn't glowing the way it should. The power was almost completely drained. Nathan pulled out a small scanner from his belt and started checking the structure. The readings made his stomach drop. "This thing isn't just broken," he muttered. It's on the verge of total collapse. Elira's face paled. Can you fix it? Nathan exhaled. It wasn't going to be easy. The damage was deep, and without the right tools, he would have to get creative. I'll need time, he said, and some parts from my ship. Elira nodded. We will help in any way we can. But just as she said that, a distant explosion shook the underground chamber. The lights flickered violently, and a deep mechanical alarm echoed through the tunnels. Nathan spun around. What was that? Elira's eyes widened in horror. The Union. They found us. Nathan stood before the ancient energy core, its dark metal structure rising high with faint, pulsing blue veins running along its surface. The core had once been the heart of the colony, supplying power for food processors, climate control, and defense systems. Now it lay weak and dim, its light flickering as if it were about to fade away. As he took a careful step closer, Nathan could see signs of deep damage. It was not a case of simple wear or random failure. This was a deliberate act of sabotage. He walked slowly around the base of the core, examining every detail. The intricate backup systems that should have kept the colony running in the event of a failure were completely inactive. In fact, they appeared to have been shut down on purpose. Nathan pulled a small scanner from his belt and held it to one of the panels. The beeps and fluctuating numbers on the display confirmed his growing suspicion. Someone had intentionally cut off the safety measures. Nathan remembered the blueprint that the Elder had shown him. According to it, the core was built with multiple layers of protection. If one circuit failed, the others would automatically take over. But now, every layer of backup had been disabled. It was as if someone had planned this failure from the very start, leaving the Velithari vulnerable and without hope. He knelt beside the core and gently touched the cool, worn metal. Every pulse and vibration of the device spoke of past strength and current sorrow. The marks on the panels were not made by time or natural decay. They were carefully placed, evidence of a calculated effort to bring the system down. Nathan felt a heavy sense of responsibility. The Velithari had entrusted their survival to him, and he could not let them down. Slowly, Nathan began to trace the wiring with his eyes. The layout was complex and far older than any technology he had seen in recent years. His mind raced as he tried to figure out a way to restore the system. Every connection, every circuit seemed to tell a story of intentional neglect. The backup systems, designed to keep the core alive even during partial failure, had been completely disabled. It was clear that whoever had done this had known exactly where to strike. As Nathan worked, the room remained silent except for the soft hum of the failing core. Outside, the quiet murmur of the colony's residents was a stark reminder of their suffering. He could almost hear their hopes and fears echoing in the still air. With each minute, the task became more urgent. The readings on his scanner slowly started to change as he reconnected a few wires and attempted to reset some of the circuits. His hands moved with both precision and caution. One wrong move could worsen the damage. While Nathan was absorbed in his work, a distant, low hum began to grow louder. He paused and listened carefully. It was not the natural sound of the base. Instead, it was the sound of engines and mechanical whirs, a clear sign that Union drones were nearing the colony's hidden entrance. The thought sent a chill down his spine. If they found the colony, they would complete the destruction that had already begun. Time was now a precious commodity. Nathan set aside his tools for a moment and looked up, imagining the fear in the eyes of the Velithari waiting above. He knew that his repairs must work quickly. With renewed determination, he returned his focus to the energy core. He examined each damaged section, trying to understand the exact sequence of actions that had led to the sabotage. The marks on the panels, the way the wires were disconnected, they all pointed to one truth. This was a deliberate act, meant to leave the colony without power and without hope. Nathan carefully opened one of the control panels using a small multi-purpose tool. A brief spark flew out, and he quickly moved his hand away. His heart pounded in his chest as he worked through the delicate circuit pathways. Slowly, he began to reconnect several wires that controlled the backup systems. Each beep from his scanner was a small victory, a sign that power was slowly returning. The atmosphere in the chamber felt charged, as if every component of the ancient core was straining to wake up. Nathan could feel the weight of the Velithary's future resting on his shoulders. He knew that he must fix the system before the drones reached them. With each careful adjustment, the blue glow of the core grew a little brighter. A faint light began to pulse along the veins of metal, signaling that the ancient system was beginning to stir back to life. Nathan paused for a moment, listening to the soft hum of the revived circuits. It was a fragile sound, but it was the sound of hope. He looked around the dark chamber and thought of the Velithari waiting for him, a people who had suffered in silence and who now relied on the strength and ingenuity of a single human. Though the task was nearly impossible, he knew that giving up was not an option. With steady hands, he continued his work, carefully rerouting power through the disabled backup circuits. His mind was clear, focused entirely on the challenge at hand. The union of technology and hope in that ancient machine reminded him that even in the darkest times, there is a way to fight back. Each new connection and every restored line was a step toward giving the Velithari a fighting chance. As the distant sound of engines grew louder, Nathan felt a surge of determination. He worked faster, knowing that every second counted. The energy core, a symbol of both past prosperity and present despair, was slowly returning to life. And with that return, a spark of hope grew for the entire colony. Nathan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges yet to come. The impossible task was far from over, but in that moment, he believed that he could turn the tide. The ancient energy core was slowly awakening, and with its light, the promise of a better future shone in the dim underground chamber. Nathan worked steadily at the control panel of the ancient energy core. The core, with its dark metal frame and pulsing blue veins, was slowly coming back to life. Each careful adjustment he made brought a little more light and hope to the underground chamber. Despite the deliberate sabotage that had left the Velithari in despair, Nathan's hands moved confidently, driven by a deep belief that human ingenuity could overcome even the greatest obstacles. He examined the complex network of wires and circuits. Even in its broken state, the system showed signs of the backup layers that the Velithari had built long ago. These layers, meant to take over in case of failure, were now intentionally disabled. But as Nathan scanned the panels with his portable device, he noticed something others had missed. There were redundant circuits, backup systems that could still be reactivated. His experience repairing old technology on his ship had taught him to look for these hidden opportunities. With a steady hand, Nathan disconnected a few wires and rerouted power to bypass the damaged sections. Sparks flew briefly as he made a precise connection, and the blue glow of the core grew a little brighter. Each beep from his scanner was like a small victory against the dark fate that had been imposed on the colony. As he worked, a low rumble began to build in the distance. Nathan's ears picked up the sound of heavy engines and mechanical voices outside the chamber. He paused, listening carefully. The rumble was the sound of Union drones approaching, their metal bodies designed to enforce the orders of those who had abandoned the Velithari. The sound of an explosion echoed through the tunnels, followed by the shaking of the base. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered violently. A Lyra burst into the room with several other colonists, her face filled with worry. "Nathan, the drones are here. They are breaking through the entrance," she cried. The voices of the Velithari, already weak from despair, grew more anxious with every passing second. Nathan glanced at the door, then back at the core. He knew that if he did not finish the repair, the core would fail again, and with it, the colony's only defense would vanish. "Stay back," he instructed in a calm yet firm voice. "I must complete these final adjustments now. Trust that the core will power our defenses." He returned his focus to the intricate wiring. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel as he disconnected a damaged circuit and replaced it with a makeshift connection from spare parts he had carried. The old fuse he found from his ship proved to be just the right size, and with a careful fit, the fuse was set into place. The display on his scanner flickered, and the energy flow through the system began to stabilize. Outside, the heavy thuds on the metal door grew louder. The Union drones were relentless, and their pounding shook the entire chamber. Nathan felt the vibrations through the floor and paused momentarily. The sound of destruction was close, but he did not waver. His mind raced as he recalled the lessons learned from countless repairs in dangerous situations. This was one more challenge that he had to overcome, not just for himself, but for the people who had placed their hopes in him. He rechecked the backup systems on his portable scanner and confirmed that his quick fix was working. The secondary circuits, which had been left in a dormant state, now pulsed with a faint blue light. The energy core, which had been nearly silent, was humming steadily. Nathan allowed himself a brief moment of relief. His resourcefulness had given the Velethari a fighting chance. Alira, watching with wide eyes, asked softly, "Do you think it will be enough?" Nathan looked around at the anxious faces of the Velethari gathered in the chamber. "I believe it will be," he replied. "Humans are good at finding solutions, even when the situation seems hopeless. We have a way of adapting, of turning the odds in our favor." His words, spoken in simple but determined tones, filled the room with renewed hope. The energy core's glow began to spread along its metal veins, and the chamber was bathed in a steady blue light. It was a sign that the system was accepting the new wiring, and that the core was coming back to life. Outside, the pounding on the door grew fiercer, and the structure trembled with every hit. The alarm sounds from the Union drones echoed in the background, adding to the sense of urgency. But inside the chamber, Nathan's focus was unyielding. He pressed on with the repair, ensuring every wire was securely in place and every circuit was complete. His determination did not go unnoticed. Some of the Velethari, who had gathered around in silent hope, began to murmur encouraging words. Their voices, though soft, carried the promise of a new beginning. In that moment, the human edge shone brightly, an edge forged through years of facing hardship, of fixing what others thought was lost, and of believing that even in the darkest times, there is a way to restore light. With one final adjustment, Nathan connected the last circuit. The energy core pulsed strongly, and the room filled with a vibrant blue light. The system was now stable, its power ready to drive the colony's defenses and revive the failing infrastructure. Nathan stepped back, letting the hum of the revived core wash over him. He knew that the battle outside was far from over, but here, within these ancient walls, hope had been restored. As the sound of the drone's assault reached a crescendo at the door, Nathan's heart pounded, not with fear, but with resolve. He had given the Velethari a fighting chance by relying on the resourcefulness of his people, the human edge. In that moment, the repaired core was more than just a machine. It was a symbol of survival, a beacon of light in the midst of despair, and a promise that no matter how dark the situation, there is always a way to fight back. Word count: approximately 850 words. Nathan had just finished his work on the ancient energy core when a sudden loud noise shook the underground chamber. The sound of heavy engines and clashing metal echoed through the tunnels. Outside, Union drones were making their way to the colony's hidden entrance. Now the revived energy core powered the colony's defenses, but time was short. Alira rushed into the chamber with worry in her eyes. "They are here, Nathan. The drones are breaking through the door," she cried. The Velethari, who had gathered near the core, looked at each other with fear and uncertainty. They had hoped that the restored power would be enough, but the enemy was already here. Nathan quickly glanced at the heavy metal door. With every impact, the door shuddered and small fragments of metal flew away. He knew that if the drones entered the chamber, the colony would be in grave danger. "Listen, everyone," he said in a calm but firm voice. "The energy core is working now, and it can create a temporary shield. We must use this shield to delay the enemy. Follow me and stay close." Alira's eyes shone with hope, but she was still scared. "Please, Nathan, do what you must," she said, her voice soft but determined. Nathan hurried to the control panel he had repaired earlier. His fingers moved quickly over the worn buttons and levers. He connected extra wires from his toolkit and entered commands into the panel. Almost immediately, the energy core responded with a stronger blue light that pulsed along its veins. This light spread outward, forming a faint but visible shield around the chamber's entrance. Outside the door, the pounding of the drones grew louder. The shield began to glow as it absorbed the force of each heavy impact. Sparks danced along the metal door, and the shield held the drones back for a few precious seconds. Nathan spoke quickly. "This shield will hold them off for now. It is only temporary, so I need everyone to be ready to move if we must." The door suddenly burst open with a loud crash. A group of Union drones, their metal bodies marked with harsh symbols and red lights, entered the chamber. Their mechanical hum filled the room as they advanced. The Velithari gasped and took a step back, their eyes wide with fear. Nathan, however, stood firm at the center of the room. "Everyone, get behind me," he ordered. His voice, steady and clear, brought a moment of calm to the frightened colony members. The energy core shone even brighter as it sent more power into the shield, trying to keep the enemy at bay. The drones moved slowly forward, their heavy bodies pressing against the shield. Nathan studied them for a moment. He noticed that the drones were not very advanced. They were built simply to break through and capture or destroy. An idea formed in his mind. He left the control panel and quickly walked to a nearby storage room. Inside, he found an old mining laser, a tool kept for emergencies. It was not a weapon in the usual sense, but it could be used to create a burst of energy that might disable the drones. Clutching the mining laser, Nathan returned to the control panel. "I have to disable these machines before they harm anyone," he said quietly to himself. He adjusted the panel settings and set the mining laser to emit a short burst of electromagnetic energy. The energy core responded immediately, and a concentrated pulse shot out through the shield. Outside, the burst hit the drones with full force. Their red lights flickered and dimmed as their systems struggled to cope with the pulse. One by one, the drones slowed. The Velithari in the chamber let out quiet cheers as they witnessed the effect of Nathan's quick thinking. But Nathan knew that this moment of relief was brief. The Union drones would soon recover, and the shield was only a temporary barrier. "We must use this chance to escape," he told Illyra. "I have marked a route through the safe tunnels that lead away from the main entrance. It is our only chance to survive this attack." Illyra hesitated for a heartbeat before nodding in agreement. "We will follow you, Nathan," she said with determination in her voice. Soon, a small group of Velithari joined Nathan as he led them out of the chamber. The sound of the drones, now recovering from the pulse, filled the air behind them, a constant reminder of the danger they faced. Nathan led the group through a series of dark, narrow corridors. The tunnels were old and winding, filled with echoes of past maintenance and long-forgotten repairs. Every step they took was filled with tension. At every sound or flash of light from behind, Nathan would stop and listen, ensuring that the enemy was not close. His calm presence reassured the Velithari, who looked to him for guidance in these uncertain times. The safe tunnels were a maze of maintenance passages that had once been part of the colony's support system. Though dimly lit, they offered a way out, a path far from the main entrance where the drones were gathering strength. As they moved deeper into the tunnels, the sound of pounding metal and engines slowly faded into the distance. However, the threat still loomed over them, and each step forward was taken with caution. At one point, Nathan stopped at a fork in the tunnel. He listened carefully for any sign of the enemy before choosing the path he believed was the safest. The Velithari, trusting his judgment, followed quietly behind him. Their footsteps echoed softly against the stone floor as they moved through the twisting corridors. Although fear was written on their faces, there was also a spark of hope, a belief that, with Nathan's help, they could escape the immediate danger. Finally, After what felt like an eternity, the group reached an exit, a heavy metal door that opened into a vast, dark cave. The cave promised shelter and a momentary respite from the relentless attack. Nathan turned to the group, his voice steady despite the exhaustion in his eyes. "We have a safe place for now," he said, "but we must remain alert. If the situation changes, we will need to move quickly." The Velithari nodded, their expressions a mix of relief and determination. They gathered in the cave, listening to the distant sounds of battle still echoing from the direction of the colony's main entrance. In that moment, the hope sparked by the revived energy core and Nathan's quick actions shone bright. Nathan took a deep breath and looked back toward the chamber. The energy core continued to pulse with a strong blue light, a symbol of the colony's survival and resilience. He knew that the fight was far from over. Yet, here in the shelter of the cave, he saw an opportunity, a chance to regroup, to plan their next move, and to prepare for the challenges ahead. In that moment, Nathan felt the true spirit of humanity, resourcefulness, courage, and the determination to stand up for those who could not defend themselves. The Velithari, now united with a human ally, had found a new reason to fight. Together, they would face the enemy, and together they would hold on to the hope of a better future. In the relative calm of the safe cave, Nathan took a moment to steady his breathing. The recent escape had been a close call, and even though the colony's immediate threat was pushed back, there was still much to be done. The energy core, though partially revived, still pulsed weakly in the depths of the underground chamber. Nathan knew that restoring its full power was the only way to secure the colony's future and drive away the looming danger of the Union drones. Aelira sat quietly beside him, her eyes reflecting both hope and worry. Other Velithari gathered around in soft murmurs, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and cautious optimism. They had seen Nathan work miracles before, and now they clung to his promise that their fate might yet change. The once dark and silent corridors of the colony were now filled with a gentle hum, a sound that spoke of energy slowly returning to life. Nathan rose and addressed the small group, his voice calm and clear. "I need to go back to the core. There is one more step to complete the repair and make the system stable for good. I have learned much from the old blueprints and my own experience. Together, we can use this renewed power to protect our home." His words carried a confidence that eased the fears of those listening. With Aelira and a few trusted Velithari by his side, Nathan retraced his steps along the winding tunnels. Every step was taken with care as he moved toward the chamber where the energy core waited. The corridor walls still whispered with the sound of distant machinery and the gentle hum of active circuits, reminding them that time was precious. When they reached the chamber, the sight of the energy core stirred renewed determination. The towering structure of dark metal was now lit by a weak, but steady, blue glow. Veins of light ran along its surface like fragile pulses, hinting at the latent strength within. Nathan examined the core closely. It was clear that previous repairs had reawakened part of its function, but several key circuits remained dormant, locked behind a series of intricate security protocols. Nathan knelt beside the core and began a careful inspection. He removed a small panel to reveal hidden wiring that had been deliberately disabled. The markings on the panel told a tale of sabotage. Each cut and break was precise, as if made by someone who knew exactly where to disable the backup systems. Yet, beneath the damage, Nathan saw an opportunity. There were hidden circuits and emergency overrides built into the design, parts that no one had thought to disable completely. Aelira watched closely as Nathan worked. "Can you fix it, Nathan?" she asked softly, her voice trembling with hope. He looked up and smiled gently. "I believe I can. We need to reconnect these wires and bypass the damaged parts using the emergency circuits. It will take careful work, but I have seen such systems before." He reached into his toolkit and pulled out a set of small instruments, a soldering device, a portable power calibrator, and several wires salvaged from his earlier repairs. The delicate task required steady hands and a clear mind. Nathan methodically reconnected the emergency circuits, checking each connection with his scanner. Every new beep from the device was a sign of progress, a small spark of life returning to the core. Outside the chamber, the sounds of the Union drones had faded, giving way to a tense silence. In the cave, the Velithari waited anxiously, each person knowing that the future of their people rested on Nathan's skill and determination. The core began to respond to his efforts. The blue glow grew stronger and steadier with every successful connection. As Nathan continued, he recounted his work softly to Alira. This part here is the main power reroute. Once I complete this connection, the emergency circuits will take over fully and bring all the backup systems online. The energy flow will be strong enough to protect the colony for a long time. His words were simple and clear, but they carried the weight of hope for everyone present. He paused when his scanner showed that the voltage was reaching a critical level. A small warning beep sounded, and Nathan quickly adjusted a dial to reduce the strain. His heart pounded, but he kept his focus. The system was sensitive, and one wrong move could undo all that he had accomplished. With measured precision, he balanced the energy flow through the emergency circuits. Slowly, the entire core began to pulse with renewed vigor. The once weak blue light transformed into a vibrant glow that spread along every surface of the core. It was as if the machine had been given a second life, a spark that would grow into a powerful blaze. The chamber filled with a gentle but firm hum of restored energy. Alira stepped forward, her face lighting up with relief. "Nathan, you did it," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. The other Velithari murmured words of thanks, their faces now reflecting cautious optimism. They began to understand that the energy core was not only a machine, it was the heart of their colony, a symbol of their resilience and hope for a future free from neglect and abandonment. Nathan allowed himself a brief smile. "It is not done yet," he replied. "This core will protect you for now, and we must use this time to plan our next move. The Union may return, but with this power, we have a chance to stand strong and rebuild." His words, though simple, resonated deeply with everyone present. The renewed energy from the core began to spread throughout the underground corridors, lighting up areas that had been shrouded in darkness for too long. With the core fully activated, the defenses of the colony would be bolstered, giving the Velithari a much-needed edge in the struggle to survive. For the first time in many long days, the people saw a clear path forward, a future where hope and perseverance could overcome despair. In that moment, the spark of hope lit within the core was more than a technical success. It was a sign that even when abandoned and left to suffer, there was always a way to find strength and fight back. And with a human like Nathan among them, the Velithari now believed that their future might yet be bright. In the calm after the battle, the underground colony began to feel like a home again. The revived energy core shone brightly, its blue light casting gentle shadows on the rough stone walls. The hum of restored power brought life back to the corridors and hallways that had once been dark and silent. Nathan stood in the center of the main chamber, his heart filled with both relief and determination. Around him, the Velithari gathered slowly, their eyes no longer dull with despair, but now glimmering with hope. Alira stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. "Nathan, you have done more than fix a machine. You have given us a second chance." The words spread among the Velithari like a warm breeze. They began to see the truth in her tone. The once abandoned colony now had a beating heart, a sign that their people could survive and rebuild. Nathan looked at the faces before him. Many were tired from the long struggle, and some still carried scars of fear from the attack by the Union drones. But now, there was a change in the air. The Velithari were willing to stand up and fight for their future. Their hope was no longer a fragile spark. It was growing into a steady flame. Nathan spoke in simple, strong words. "You are not alone. Today, you have shown the world that even in the darkest times, hope can be found. You have the strength to protect your home and to rebuild. I stand with you." The elder, who had once doubted the presence of a human in their midst, stepped forward slowly. His voice was weak, yet filled with a new respect. "You have given us more than help, Nathan. You have given us courage. Our people will remember this day, for it marks a turning point in our history." His words made the group murmur in agreement, each voice joining the chorus of determination. As the Velithari began to organize themselves, Nathan gathered a small team of trusted individuals. Together, they planned how to use the renewed energy to fortify the colony. Some would work on improving the power network, while others would repair damaged sections of the tunnels and walls. There was a sense of unity and purpose that had been missing for too long. The Velithari were no longer simply waiting for rescue. They were now ready to help themselves, guided by the human spirit that Nathan had shown. Outside the colony, the sounds of the Union forces had faded into a distant echo, but the threat was not gone. Nathan knew that the Union might return with greater force, seeking to reclaim their abandoned territory. He addressed the Velithari with care. "We must be prepared. The enemy may come back, but we will be ready. We have our renewed core, and with it we can protect our people. But we must work together and trust in our strength." His calm voice brought reassurance to those who had lost hope. In the days that followed, the colony worked as one. The energy core, fully active and pulsing with vibrant blue light, powered new security systems and restarted essential services. Food processors, which had been silent for so long, began to hum as they prepared nourishment for the people. The colony was slowly coming back to life. Nathan helped train a group of Velithari to learn how to maintain the energy core and other machinery. In his simple way, he taught them that every challenge could be met with patience, creativity, and hard work. Meanwhile, Belaira led a small team to gather resources from other parts of the underground complex. They found old storage rooms filled with supplies that could be used to help rebuild the community. With every piece of equipment restored and every wall mended, the colony grew stronger. The Velithari began to tell stories of the day when a human had come to their aid. Their voices, once soft with sorrow, now rang with pride and determination. One evening, as the colony gathered in the main hall, a sense of celebration filled the air. They shared simple meals, laughed, and talked about their future. Nathan sat quietly at the edge, listening to the voices of those who had found hope again. Alara came to sit beside him. "We will always remember this day," she said. "Not because of the hardship, but because it showed us what we are capable of when we stand together." Nathan nodded in agreement, his thoughts returning to the journey that had brought him here and the many challenges that still lay ahead. In time, the Velithari made a vow. They promised that they would honor the help they had received by standing strong and rebuilding their world. They pledged themselves as allies to humanity, knowing that the spirit of cooperation and mutual respect was stronger than any force of oppression. The unity they had found in that dark underground chamber became the foundation of a new beginning. As Nathan prepared to leave the colony and continue his journey among the stars, he looked back one last time. The once forlorn colony now buzzed with activity and hope. He had come as a stranger and left as a friend, a symbol of the human edge that could change the fate of others. With a humble smile, he stepped into his ship, ready to carry the message of courage and resilience to the far reaches of the galaxy. The legacy of that day would live on in every repaired circuit, in every renewed light of the energy core, and in every heart that beat with hope. The human spirit, with its ability to fight for what is right and to build a better future, had become a beacon for the Velithari. In that unity, the true power of humanity was revealed, a power that could spark hope in the darkest times and inspire others to rise and fight for a brighter tomorrow.